All right, so a couple months ago, I asked everyone to send me their raw photos so I can edit it. So I got a lot of photos, so I couldn't do everyone's photo. So I made a selection of a couple of these, and I'm gonna do the other ones in the new video if this video is interesting for people. So let's first do these three images here that we are going to edit. So thanks to everyone who sent me these photos. I will definitely try to make another video on this one. So if you want to be in the next video that I edit all your photos, if you have some wildlife photos that you want to have to edit by me, then just send it to this email and I will have a look at them, and maybe I will edit to the next video, or maybe next couple of videos if this is interesting for people. So stick around until the end so you can see the process of all these images. All right, the first one is by Shub Gosrani. I hope I pronounced his name right, but this is his cheetah photo and we are going to transform it into this one. So it's a whole kind of different images that we are making from it. All right, let's edit this cheetah here. First, crop this image. Let's see if we can crop this really well. Let's do it like this. So we don't edit the stuff around it we don't need. All right, the first thing to do is to duplicate this, and we have a duplicated version. Now for this one, I'm gonna add curves first. I think this image is fine now to edit. So let's make this really dark now, and let's brush areas lighter. So we click on the mask with the black brush, and I can make some areas lighter. So basically I'm gonna make the center lighter here. That's it. Now let's make another curves, and this one I'm gonna make more creative. So make sure to press this button here or else it doesn't work. So make this really dark, and this one we can create some interesting lighting. So let's create lighting coming from the right side here. So basically I'm just gonna brush the right side light and leave the left side dark. Now let's create a layer here. Create a new layer and just make a little dot. Make sure it's white, not black, and let's move it up there and make it bigger, and we have some nice lights coming from there. Of course this doesn't look real, so let's drop this a bit, and also need to drop these curves a bit because it's too dark now. I think this is fine, right? So this looks pretty good, maybe a bit less, like that. Now let's also create a new layer and fill this with 50% gray. Change blend mode to overlay, and then use the dodge tool to bring up the lights in his eyes. So definitely gonna brush here and here, and this already makes a lot better. Let's try highlights here so you can make it even lighter, just like that. Now let's also brush a bit here. This is too much, so I need to drop this. Let's also brush. This is also too much. Let's do midtones, and we need to brush a bit of this fur on this side to make sure we get some nice highlights from the fur here, there, these white areas, and also these here. And let's do a bit here, like that. Let's also do this, his friend here. Let's also make him a bit lighter so you can still see him, because he's really in the dark now. So just try to brush these lighter areas a bit, like that, just like that. And it's actually super easy. Don't really have to think about it. Now if you compare this before and after, you can see here we can see him a lot better now. Let's make sure the top side is also lighter. You don't want to make him too dark. All right, this is enough. And now what I'm gonna do is create a new layer. Press Command Alt Shift E. So we have duplicated version. Converts to a smart object, then go to filter, camera raw, and in camera raw we can adjust this image a bit better. So let's try to play with the settings here. Now if we increase the contrast here a bit, and let's also increase the highlights, and let's make the shadows lighter because I feel like we have created a really dark image now. Now the whites we can give a bit more white, and also increase the blacks because I still want to have this soft kind of effect. Now let's drop the texture and bring up the clarity so we get really soft kind of image. Now let's move on. Let's not touch that one. let's make some more highlights here and also increase the lights. Maybe this is too much, so let's do it a bit less. And let's also make the shadows a bit lighter. Now let's move on to detail. Let's give it a bit sharpening and some noise reduction. All right, let's move on to change the colors. In hue, we can change these colors. So I think I want to change this red a bit. I'm gonna make it a bit more orange to fit this image. Let's not touch that one. And the grass, I want to have more kind of this kind of green. So a bit different tone green. I think this is enough. Now let's move on to saturation. Let's see if we can find this grass, this one. I'm gonna drop the color a bit from it so we have more focus on this cheetah here. Let's see, maybe this one. This is our blood. Let's give it a bit less blood, like that. Let's do luminance now and make it a bit lighter. All right, let's move on to the last part, and this one here, saturation maybe a bit less, and this one like that. And I think this is enough. If we're gonna do more, we're gonna ruin the image here. I think this is fine. Press OK, and now we can compare the before and after. So let me put this in a group. This was before and this after. You can see here we created a whole kind of different image. Of course you can do more, but this is just basically a real new kind of thing that you created. All right, so the next photo is by Paul. Make sure to check out Paul's page. This is the original photo and we are going to transform it into this one. All right, let's start with dragging this image in our Photoshop. So first of all, we can see here this image is pretty dark, so we need to lighten up some areas here and make everything pop. So first of all, let's do some basic correction here. So I'm gonna increase the exposure here to get a little bit more light in this image. Let's also increase the contrast here, a bit more highlights, and the shadows can always also be lighter. Let's also give it some whites. Later on we will fix all this, like there is no contrast now, so I will definitely make some more contrast, but I will do that later in Photoshop. Let's also give some texture here to see the details better and some clarity. Let's go to curves. Let's not do lights or else we get too much of these white tones. So I'm gonna leave it like this and just open it up in Photoshop. All right, the first thing I would like to do to this is I would like to crop this image. Maybe you like landscape mode, but I really like to make photos in portrait mode. So I'm gonna go to the crop tool here and let's do 4x5. So 4x5, and let's see if we can fit this image. Let's make it smaller. So we have the center like there, and let's do it a bit more like, let's see, like that. We can use this as the rule of thirds, so I'm gonna place his face like that. So this is fine. Press enter and we have our selection. Now the next thing to do is let's make a duplicated version of this by pressing Ctrl or Command J, and then if we go here we create a new layer, then go to edit, fill, and fill this with 50% gray, so that way we can start brushing. Don't forget to make this overlay. Now the first thing I would do here is to use the burn tool to brush some areas a bit darker. So let me zoom out a bit here and let's do highlights here, and let's brush a bit of these darker areas darker. Also this stuff here, I don't want to focus here. I'm gonna make this a bit darker so we have all our focus on this tiger here. Let's do here. Let's also do the background, but the background is a bit lighter, so I'm not gonna go here or else it's gonna get too dark. So I'm gonna go slightly here. Let's also do a bit here, just these darker spots a bit darker to get some nice contrast in this image. Let's make it smaller a bit here. Let's also do here. Let's see, a bit more there. Just a bit of a brushing, because we want to have our focus like on its face here. So if we make these other areas darker, we are gonna get more focus on its face. Okay, let's not do there. Okay, Just a bit of a brushing. Now let's switch to midtones and drop this. I'm gonna drop this pretty low, or else we're gonna get it too dark. So I'm basically gonna brush the same areas again, just like that. And here, let's see, here it's gonna get red, so I'm not gonna brush there anymore. Right in the background, let's do a bit there, so we can create some sort of vignette here, like that. And we are already getting more focus on its face now. And if you compare this before and after, you can see here we are creating more focus on its face instead of the background and stuff around it. And now let's do shadows here and drop this even more. Let's do here. For this one, for the bottom part, I'm probably gonna use the curves instead of the brush. Let's drop this more, or else it's gonna get ruined. This part here is a bit darker. It's better to drop it lower and to brush a couple times instead of making it real dark at once. So usually I do this and this. Let's make this a bit darker. All right, now the before and after, we already have a nice focus on its face. The next thing to do is to actually do the same and create a 50% gray layer again, and change this to overlay again. And this time select the dodge tool. And now you want to highlight some areas. So first of all, let's highlight its eyes. Let's try to keep it real. So if you're gonna do this a lot, it's not gonna look real anymore. So do it like a little bit and try to see if it still looks real. I think this is fine. Maybe also his teeth, so we get some nice highlights here. And let's also do like these manes here of this tiger to get all these nice white manes. And also here. And let's see, maybe a bit more here. Let's also do these manes here where it ends, like that. And also this, this. Let's make the brush bigger here. And now you can see we get really highlighted manes now. Or is it fur? Not sure how you call it. Oh, Dutch tool, manes here. All right, so we have all these lighter areas. Let's also do a bit here, but I'm gonna drop the opacity so it doesn't get too light. We still need to be sure that it looks real and not like a manipulation. So I don't want to have for the manipulation this one, I want to have it realistic, like that. And maybe here a bit more. So basically you just have to brush all these areas. This is maybe a bit too much. Let's do this here. So if it's gonna get too much, you just drop the opacity a bit here and it will look more real. Now the next thing to do is I would like to add some curves. Usually I do this at the beginning, but I first want to correct this a bit. So let's make it dark now, just like that, and use a black brush on the mask to make areas lighter again. So I want to make sure the face here, everything here is light, and the light is gonna come from somewhere on the right side. Right, so this part will be a bit darker. I think this already looks pretty good. All right, the next thing to do is to add some curves to this, a new one. And for this one, I'm gonna increase the highlights a bit here, so we make this lighter. And if we use this one, the darker tones, we can make it a bit darker and some more contrast, maybe this one a bit more, just like that. And you can see I switch every time from gray to black to light gray here, because if you look at one image in one background, you barely can see if it's good or bad anymore. So try to switch these to compare it how it looks on different surroundings from your Photoshop. Right, so let's do a bit more here. So basically you want to have the center of attention on its face and not the stuff around it. All right, I think this is fine now. Maybe this is a bit too much, so again I'm gonna drop the opacity of this one. All right, now let's go all the way up and create a new layer and press Command Alt Shift E or Control Alt Shift E on Windows and convert this to a smart object, and then go to Filter, Camera Raw Filter, and here we can do the final adjustments. So let's first play with the color here. maybe a bit more yellowish, and a bit more to the right. Let's see the exposure, maybe a bit more exposure. I don't want to increase I'm gonna drop the contrast here so it gets a bit softer, or else it's gonna get too much contrast. Let's see, maybe a bit more shadows like that. And if we drop this one, don't forget to bring this one up. So now it's a bit softer. All right, let's move on. I'm not gonna do this one. I'm gonna leave that one. And here we can do the highlights, maybe a bit more, and drop the lights so we don't get too much of these white tones. Let's drop the shadows here. Detail, if you want more sharpening, you can bring this up, but you can see all this noise we get now, so you need to get rid of that noise. It's too much, so you need to play with these settings. If you have a different photo, just play with the settings between these two and also this one to get the right amount. All right, let's move on. And here I can do a little bit of changes to the fur color here and the stuff around them. Here you can get really creative with the colors if you want to have more like an art kind of thing. You can play with these one, so maybe a bit more orange like that. I think this is already fine. Now let's move on calibration, and here also this one maybe a bit less. Let's leave that one. Let's see, I think this is fine. I wouldn't touch that one too much. Press OK, and that's pretty much it for this one. And you can compare this. Oh, I forgot one thing. Let's also do color balance here to make sure the colors are right. Maybe a bit more bluish, just like that. This is really colorful now, so I would actually make it maybe a bit less colorful, but it's gonna really pop out now if you have it like this. And if we compare the before and after, this was before, this is after. You created like a whole new kind of image, and I think this looks pretty cool if you make your images more like this. All right, so this photo is by Wesley, and this is his page. Make sure to check him out. First of all, this is a JPEG file, so let's make a new layer here. Just duplicate this with Ctrl J so we have the original here, and convert to a smart object. And let's first go into Camera Raw to do some basic changes. You can see there's a lot of noise in this image, so I want to get rid of that noise first. So if you go to detail, increase the noise reduction, you can get rid of that noise, but it's gonna get too soft, so we also need to increase the texture here a bit and maybe some clarity so we can still see the details. Maybe also some sharpening here. Just don't do too much or else you get all this noise back, so try to find the right spot here. I think this is fine for now. Now the next thing to do is to work on the contrast, and this will be a lot more contrast. This is better because it's like really gray now. I want to have these black tones more to black, so this is better already. Let's see the exposure. Let's leave that one, or else we get too much white tones, and that's why I want to drop the highlights a bit here. Let's see, maybe drop the shadows also, and if we bring up the whites, we still can see those white tones. Let's bring this a bit down. All right, let's move on to curve and bring up the lights a bit here, and also the highlights. All right, I'm gonna leave it like this for now. Press OK to first have the basic correction, and you can already see it improved a lot. And again, here I'm gonna do some brushing with creating a new layer, then go to edit, fill with 50% gray, change the blend mode to overlay, and do a bit of a brushing. Now first of all, let's do the dodge tool here, and let's select highlights here, and let's make these highlights a bit lighter. So I want to have more highlights there. Let's drop the exposure around 10-20, and let's brush a bit of these feathers a bit lighter like that, so we get some nice highlights here. I forgot to crop this image, but I would usually also crop this image. Let's also make the eyes lighter. They are really dark now, and for the eyes we can select midtones and bring the exposure up here. Let's also do this one, and we can already see the eyes a lot better now. And the difference here, always compare it before and after so you can see if it improves the image or makes it sometimes it's gonna get worse. So you want to make sure you improve the image and not make it worse. Now let's do another 50% gray layer. Fill it with 50% gray again and go to burn and select the burn tool. And with the burn tool we can make areas a bit darker again. So usually when you edit these wildlife photos, the most important things to do is to use the burn and dodge tool and change the lighting a bit, and of course camera raw. And with those three things you can really improve your image. I would also make the bottom here darker. Let's crop this image because I feel like I'm brushing areas that I don't need, so I'm gonna make it like that. Let's move it there. Let's make sure he's in the center here, just like that. Press enter and you already have your image. Now this is already pretty good, so let's do a bit more brushing here with the burn tool. Now we can also create some more depth in this image, so let me first finish this one a bit more darker there, so we don't get distracted by this background. Maybe that was too much. All right, let's first create a new layer, and let's take the background color here a bit lighter and just take a normal brush and let's make like this thing here, right? So really easy, just like that. And that's already creating like some sort of blurry effect at the foreground. Maybe it's too dark now, so I can also try to make it lighter like that. And this is already better. Now the next thing to do is we can add a gradient map to this to really change the color tones here. I have a bunch of gradient maps. Maybe for instance this one would be cool. I will link all these gradient maps in the description of the video, and the only thing you have to do is change the blend mode here to either overlay it or soft light. And if I try out this one, you can see we get more colors in this image. Of course it gets a bit darker, so maybe you want to remove it from the eye, for instance. Don't need to color the eye. Let's leave it like it was, like that. All right, let's also do some curves. It's my favorite tool in Photoshop. Oh, don't need to press this because we're gonna edit the whole image. And let's make it really dark. Take a black brush and brush one side light. So basically I'm just brushing one side light again. Let's not forget the eye. Just like that. And this one is really dark, so I'm gonna brush a bit more here. Let's also do this one here. And now if we compare this, we get really dark image, maybe drop the opacity. All right, now the last thing to do is to create a new layer and press Command-Alt-Shift-E. So if a duplicated version, convert it to a smart object, and then go to camera raw again, so we can do the final adjustments here. So basically we did all the editing already and we only have to finish it up. So let's increase the contrast here so we get nice darker tones. Increase the highlights again here. Let's give it a bit lighter shadows like that. And the blacks like that. And now if you want to make it soft, just play with these two here. I think this looks pretty good. Maybe it's too light, so I'm gonna go here and drop these lights so we still have like original image. Right, let's see, maybe a bit darker here. I think I need to increase the brightness of my screen because it's too dark. Now let's do also a bit more creative here with the colors. So this was the original color. I like to have it a bit more orange like that. I think this looks a bit more cool. And let's see, maybe like this. And the other ones we don't need. Let's try vignette here, and also this vignette. So you have all this focus on the center. And here we can also play with the red ones. I think this is enough, or else if you're gonna do it too much, it's gonna get a real different image. Press OK, and that's it. Maybe it's too orange now, I don't know. But if you compare this before and after, it looks already a lot better. Of course, this shot isn't really focused, so there's not much we can do about that, but I think it got a lot better already. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something new, and see you in the next one.